Hello and welcome to A Single Girl's Guide to Life, which is distinctly different from The Single Girl's Guide to Life. I'm Chantelle. I'm a quarter life and confidence coach for single women, and I host the podcast The Single Girl's Guide to Life. And on that I talk about dating, relationships, friendships, loneliness and living alone, being single, boundaries, communication, attachment, all different things that I come across when I'm reading. I talk about the Single Girls Club and more. But I wanted this to be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more personal in that sense, because it literally is a single girl's guide to life and what's going on in her life, because it's going to be a little bit about me and sharing what I do. As a quarter life and confidence coach, I help women to get through difficult times. But the reason I did that and moved out of teaching to move into this was because I went through my own difficulties in dealing with what I deem to be a quarter life crisis. If you go for the definition, there's a podcast episode that talks about that, and the research that Dr. Oliver Robinson has done, a lot of in-depth work on that. And within that, I felt like I didn't know who I was and what I was really doing. And so at the age of 26, I chose to leave my husband at the time. We'd been together for 7 years and I'd always been in relationships as an adult. So from 19 to 26, I was with my ex, and for 2 years before that, I was with another ex. So I'd never been single on my own. And I have been working out all different areas of my life in terms of what I really want everything to look like, delving into the personal development world, the self-help world, and figuring it out with a little bit more intention. And I think that that's going to be helpful for people to hear sometimes, because we are able to know that it's possible to do when we know somebody else has done that. And that's what I wanted to offer up here in sharing some of the things that I am doing, so it's a little bit more up to date and present, and the challenges I face within some of that and how I get on. Not everything goes to plan, it never does. Change is the only constant that we can rely on. The only thing that's going to keep happening is that things are going to keep changing, and that we can't control everything. So, you can set as many intentions as you want, but there are things that are out of your control that you can't always do. But I wanted to start off the new year with this new kind of style. I don't know how frequent it will be. I have recently quit the industry of teaching to explore what I really want to go into next. Part of it, I believe, is this. This will now be my third kind of, inverted commas, career or change. So my background is in theatre. My degree was in sound, working in West End musical theatres on the likes of Phantom of the Opera, We Will Rock You, Billy Elliot, lots of them I covered in the time that I did that. And then I changed my mind then and I went into teaching, and I've had a 7-year run in teaching, which I have thoroughly enjoyed, and had a great time moving through being in charge of Key Stage 3 maths, and taken on head of year role as well. But I came to a point where I wanted to try something else again. And so I'm in this scenario where I'm trying something new again. And I had to leave in the middle of a school year because I really felt compelled to make sure that it did tie with a new year and a new start. You can start whenever, but it's just nicer if there's that slightly more natural element to it. And so that's what I did. And this week, as challenging as I can find Christmas to New Year week, has been time where I've been able to continue to heal, to work on the things that I know need working on. And then it gives the opportunity to look at what you want to do next. And this idea came up today, literally the first time I ever thought of it. And I'm like, go, let's move with this. And, I've been starting to look at scheduling, not sure how that's said, but I don't now have a structure to my day. I used to have work. I used to have to get up every day for that at a very specific time. And I would leave around the same time, if not stay late sometimes. Now, where I'm taking a couple of months off to at least sort out what I'm doing and to work out how I'm going to generate income, I have to work it out. And I was sat here writing, like, this is the personal schedule, this is what I need to be releasing and things like this. And it's weird because it has some level of flexibility, which is what I wanted, but it feels very odd because I've never had that before. And just think what a teacher has to run to, literally a timetable. So to be like, oh, potentially this here, but then if that doesn't happen, then this, and then these need to be in here because you need to earn that money, but then these days could be for these, and it's very flexible, and it feels odd to have that, and I think it's just something I'm going to have to get used to in 2022. So one of my goals, so for those that have been around, you might know about the 2022 The Year Review journal that I put together. You can still get it on Amazon. There's a bit of a wait time because of the printing, so you're a couple of weeks behind, but I wanted to literally use it because I designed it in a way that should be effective and helpful, and I was looking at January, and it says, what one thing are you going to start doing this month? And I went for creating a routine for getting up and going to bed, because I now don't have the reasons necessarily to get up or to go to bed at any reasonable time, but realistically should, because of all the benefits of going to bed at a sensible time and making sure that you get enough sleep. I need to cut ties with my phone a little bit, which is difficult because I use my phone for this. Like literally this is recording on a phone right now. So there's a catch there in that my time on my phone will be increased because of what I do. I need to have boundaries around not getting absorbed into that too far, making sure that there's enough of a break between it. So that's something I want to start. And then what do I want to stop doing? This is going to be a tough one. This is going to test me. I really need to sort out some of my dietary elements. And one element is definitely sugary things. Everyone has a vice. And I think that might be mine. Like they always say, I don't know, is it your addiction or just what's your stressor? But what do you go to when like you're upset or you're annoyed, frustrated? Food. And if it's of a chocolatey, sweety kind, then I'm there. But I don't need all of that all the time, but I am in the habit of drinking full fat Pepsi, partly because the diet versions aren't that great for my body, but also I know that the fizzy ones aren't. But also then the same goes for like dessert or having snacks. So trying not to have a sugary snack dessert after each meal, like lunch and dinner. I'm going to set myself up for a fall if I try and say no sugary drinks and no sweets for this month of January. No, I already know that would fail. I have to give myself some sort of leeway and kind of weaning off and winding it down. So I've kind of aimed for reducing how many fizzy drinks I have, and that would go to 3 drinks a week. So at the moment I reckon it's 1 can a day, and I want to take that down to like half, 3 or 4 a week, preferably 3. And then at the moment I'd say I have 2, maybe 3 sugary snacks, which is a problem. So I want to get that down to 1. So I'm going to try and say that for dinner, the evening meal, in case you don't agree that dinner is in the evening, you have I can have a dessert after that, a sweet or something like that. So I need to look at that. And so that's some of the what do I want to start and stop doing coming up. The book club that we've just been covering is Atomic Habits again. So it's been useful in that sense to think about how to build those habits and not. And I'm definitely going to use a habit tracker to help me visualize and see that. But I also need to, the other thing that it does mention in there is that I know I need to set up what I'm doing content-wise, what I'm sharing. And that's, that's an interesting thing. And it is a step I've taken. Not every single person wants to do this, but other single people might want to do this, which is the best way I came to describe it in the end was that I wanted to design a life first and then build work around it. So for me, I've put the gym in place so that 1, I'm working on my fitness and health, another area, but 2, because I didn't want to stay at home all the time. I didn't want to be confined by these 4 walls because I felt I couldn't go anywhere, but I also didn't want to go somewhere and constantly spend money. Whereas, a 40 odd pound gym membership, whilst it's now another expense I need to make sure I cover, it is something that I'm like, well, you're pretty much going every day that you're not working and doing any kind of like supply or cover. So you need to get that sorted. But that will give me some reason to leave the house, which is a healthy thing to do. And would be very easy for me to stay in, I think. But I also crave, those micro interactions you get with people. It's not the same as being in a school with over 1,000 pupils. It isn't, and certainly not with like 1,000 pupils that would be interested in talking to me or, as part of a classroom or in the corridors or bits and pieces. It is the element of just, having that slight human interaction. I've also got to work out how with friends, I make sure I see them Some of them I've got routine times, like in a week, and others it's going to be a little bit more ad hoc, but making sure that I do see people and develop those relationships. I definitely want to, you know, not just for January, but overall for the year. Some of the things that I wrote down are to, you know, continue the single life, but also I'm not focused on finding a relationship, but there is that element of I want to keep practicing at developing relationships. And if one opportunity or any opportunity comes along that then looks like it's viable to continue, I wouldn't say no to that. But there are elements that I know I need to look at and want to develop in communication, understanding and empathy within relationships with everyone, not just romantic, but with all friends, family and understanding people. But within dating, I have an anxious attachment style that I'm very aware of, and I'm still working on that. So that's a big kind of thing for the year. I put down that I wanted to be carefree, calm and intentional, forgiving, caring and respectful to others, and remain true and aligned with my values, which I'll talk about in another one. I don't want these to be super long. I just want them to be kind of catch-ups in some way. My values are incredibly important to me, and learning about them and deciding on them, although the fifth one always kind of like is up in the air as to quite which one it is always one of my favourite things, because I go back to it, and if I'm making decisions, deciding what to do, I'm like, why am I doing that? Or why did I do it that way? Because I was probably acting in accordance with my values, like when you're trying to connect with someone or so on. This year is for... It is literally why I called it this. 2022 is the year of you, and when I say you, in this context, I mean me. But, you know, that's what I've decided to own it as. I know lots of people go, I'm making it my year, 2022 is going to be my year. Very much have that intention with it. I'm also very aware it's going to be a very slow year compared to having a busy timetable with hundreds and hundreds of children to manage, think about, to plan all the lessons, to interact with them, other colleagues, parents. It's going to be a stark difference. I think time is going to feel slower. It's probably going to be the longest year of my life. Saying that, it might not be, because I hope it's got variety, even though I just said about creating a schedule. I don't know, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited for you to see what that is. And whilst this one's been a very personal, this could have been anyone speaking just now, I think over time the single girl element will be there to talk about through experiences of dating, depending on what goes on with lockdown. I live on my own, so there's always that element. This is my humble abode, so that's always going to have that to it. But I'm excited for you to share this journey with me as I go through it. And 2022 has just started. This is the 1st of January 2022 as I record this. When you hear this, might be a few days later, and you might always sometimes get like a jumble put together. The point is that you hear another single girl's story as it's happening to some degree. You see what can be done, you see what another single girl is trying, and maybe that will inspire you to adapt it for yourself and to get you to think about what it is that you want to do and what your goals are and how you want to move through into 2022 and make it the year of you. And so welcome to a single girl's guide to life instead of the single girl's guide to life, which is for you and for you learning things. This is a single girl's guide to, I suppose, my life. And if you want to stick around and find out more, then make sure you follow and subscribe so that you get updates on when those videos are out, as well as the podcast video episodes as well, so that you can be learning more and more about single life, dating, relationships, and so on. I'll probably see you next time once I've had a week of seeing what my week looks like. See you then.